Can't you see? Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
Let's go!
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
What is it? 2 weeks? 2 weeks until we're done? I think less than that, like a week and 6 days until this election cycle is over, until we have a new president of these United States of America and a new leader of the free world. How does that make you feel? You about ready to be done with it? Are you excited for the future, or are you just ready to be over the entirety of the whole thing, but nervous for what the next 4 years holds? There's less than 2 weeks left till the election. And my horrible suspicion is going to feel like more than 2 years. According to a new poll that literally everybody can agree on, 81% of us just wish the election was done. That's most of us. And only 12% of people are looking forward to seeing how things play out in these last 2 weeks. 59%. Both Democrats and Republicans say that they've already heard too much discussion about the election. Only 7% of people say they wish they'd heard more. And I would hazard a guess that those 7% of people who wish they heard more are people that were studiously avoiding the whole thing because it turned their stomach. And now they're going, wish I would have paid closer attention in the run-up to all this. And then one of the main reasons we want it over is that it's killing us. More than 2/3 of us have found the election unbelievably stressful. And only 8% of us think that this country will be fine no matter what. In other words, and I know I'm throwing a lot of facts, figures at you at the moment, but in other words, if I'm just going to boil this down, the reductive sauce of this election cycle is that, in other words, over 90% of us think that the fate of America hangs in the balance, and we can't even give it 2 more weeks. We are not a patient group, and we don't hold out a lot of hope for the future. I know a lot of people that have spent the last 6 months, year, however long it's been since they've been engaged, arguing with people about politics on Facebook. Freaking bananas, especially when I talked to that one friend of mine. You remember we talked about this? That Uber driver. Guy who works in radio, also supplements his living by driving for Uber. And he was like, I kind of figure I lost out on a lot of money by sitting at home arguing with people on Facebook about the election rather than being out driving Uber, like possibly tens of thousands of dollars, because he's really engaged. He's been arguing a lot over the last year. And he was just like, it's really hurt my bottom line. I put all this effort into supporting my candidate, and in doing so, I've made it harder for me to eat and pay rent. And this is not a guy that has a lot of cash. This is a guy that works in radio with the hope of getting in there full time and supplements his living by driving Uber. And he just went, I look back on it and I go, that was a huge, huge mistake. I've given so much of my life, so much of my time, so many of my resources to this candidate who, when it all comes down to it, I'm not really all that excited about. I was at the beginning of things, and now not so much. That was a mistake. And that was one person I talked to. And I would imagine a lot of us are feeling a similar sort of way. I can't believe I got lost down this wormhole of supporting the career of a politician that doesn't know my name, doesn't care about me, what did I do? What did I just do? What have I just been doing for the last 6 months? So again, I say to you, as we've been saying for a long time, really it comes down to you. If you're expecting a politician to make changes in your life, if you are expecting a politician to affect the quality of your day when you wake up in the morning, you are on a trip to a town called Disappointmentville, population U. As always, you have the power every single morning to wake up, be captain of your own ship, figure out how your day is going to go, get your mindset right, and go grab life by the short and or curlies. Because you know what? These changes that we're all hoping for, these changes we've got our fingers crossed for, these changes that those of us who have invested 6 months to a year of our lives in arguing on Facebook over a particular candidate, these changes that we're hoping that they will affect are going to take a long time to roll around. And if you are waiting on that change, well, even if it does happen, you're going to be waiting for a little bit. So, as we've said time and time again, it's time to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and figure out what the terrain is and figure out how to navigate it. Your vote is important. Your vote is so important. Your right to vote is unbelievably important. I never, ever want to dismiss that. I never, ever want to give you the impression that I'm saying it doesn't count, it doesn't matter. It does count, and it does matter. But there is so much more at stake, and that so much more is your life. And it seems like awfully late in the game we are getting clear on it. But that will help you in the 4 years to come after this. Our guest on the show today is Andrea Lowell. You've seen her in Playboy. You've seen her on Playboy TV. She hosts the Mr. Skin podcast. She has 2 AR-15s, and we're going to talk about all of this next.
Always fair and mentally unbalanced. KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So we're hanging out on the show today with Andrea Lowell. You might have seen her on The Surreal Life. You might have seen her in Playboy. You might have heard her on Playboy Radio. She hosts the Mr. Skin podcast. She is one of the most ubiquitous Playboy-related presences to come along pretty much ever. And today she is on our show to talk about all manner of things, up to and including the 2 AR-15s that you got.
You know what? I am an open book, baby. So, AD, thank you so much for having me, and I'm loving what you're saying so far. I think you and I are on the same page on a lot of things.
Whew. Well, you're the one with guns, so explain that. Why the 2 AR-15s?
Well, because in the state of California, there's going to be a time coming where we're not going to be able to purchase them anymore. So in order to protect myself, I have no idea what's going to happen with the future of the world. But from right now, from my perspective, it looks almost dismal. So I'm just arming myself in case a tyrannical situation does happen. I know it sounds a little kind of like
dinosaurs? Tyrannical?
No, like the government, it's like tinfoil hat kind of wearing stuff, but I am just preparing myself for worst case scenarios. I'm not planning on shooting anyone up. It's more for self-protection and fighting off the bad guys.
Have you had experience with bad guys where you've had to use a gun in the past?
No, absolutely not. I've been mugged before, but pepper spray came in handy. But it's just more
hard to keep an AR-15 in your purse.
Yeah, no, I have a handgun too. But it's not necessarily.
All right, let's hold on. Let's just go over the gun catalog for a second. Like how let's run down the list of the guns that you own.
Okay. I don't.
Because right now there's listeners in Texas being like, let's run down the list of guns that she owns. Like, this is like, go on.
Now, I don't know the makes and models of the ARs. I just know one is bigger and more badass than the other. But I have a Sig Sauer P227, I think. It's the same one the Marines use, and I have it all tricked out with scopes and lasers and all the fun stuff. And basically, I'm familiar with using that one in the event of a home invasion. But the ARs, I don't really play around with too much. I'll take them to the range like once or twice a year just to make sure I know how to use them. But I'm basically owning them and buying them now because the laws in California are going to make it where I won't be able to buy one. So that's what I'm working on now. It's just accumulating my stockpile for the future.
Isn't it crazy? As people worry about their Second Amendment rights, people worry about their ability to purchase and own firearms.
Right.
The sales have shot through the roof. There's a lot of people thinking exactly the way you are, and it's completely understandable. And it explains to me why so much of the anti-gun chit chat is counterintuitive. It really does. And look, there are. It's a large and unwieldy and complicated conversation.
Oh, and, totally.
We could spend a lot of time on it, but it's just I always go back to this. In the 1960s, when there was no gun control,
right,
and a kid could walk into a drugstore and order themselves a cherry phosphate, a comic book, and a shotgun, there were almost no school shootings.
Right.
Like, none. Zip, zing, nada. Now, as gun control has increased,
yes,
so have the levels of shootings. And it's not, to me, saying that people are shooting up public places because they're angry about gun control laws. But it says to me the two things are not related, and one is not fixing the other. Well, and for me, I believe like the spate of random shootings that has been happening with increasing regularity has more to do with the disenfranchisement and disconnected feeling that a lot of us have in this digital era. We feel lonely, we feel isolated, and if you're really, really messed up, you're going to take desperate action to speak out, because all these things happen. They're community things. All these shootings, all of them happen in the community where the person lives. Mm-hmm. And all of them, I think, really are, in a very, very tragic way, a cry for attention.
No, they're absolutely tragic, but you're absolutely right. The stricter the gun laws become, the more crime there is. The states with the strictest gun laws are the ones with the most gun, issues. So the laws are really counterintuitive. I think you're 100% right. The society we live in drives people, by design to get really uncomfortable, angry, irritable, discontent with themselves, and they lash out in these crazy ways. And I'm a responsible gun owner. My stuff's locked up. No one's getting to my gun but me. And I think if people do own guns, they need to properly store them. And I think, parents of these kids have a responsibility as well. But I also think, these kids that are committing these things are severely depressed. They could be over-medicated. And no one really talks about that stuff. But I think there's really a systematic failure for society as a whole.
Yeah, no, I think, it's just, it's weird that shooting. Look, we're on the air in Orlando, and we went on the air the day after the shooting at Pulse happened. And I was like, wow, this really crystallizes every single issue that America is going through at the moment, because you look at the whole situation and you're like, that a horrible, awful, terrible thing to happen.
Tragic.
And there's people that are angry. Hey, they're not calling this out as being a homophobic hate crime. There's people angry going, hey, they're not calling this out as being Islamic terrorism. There's people going, oh my gosh, we have to rid the streets of guns. If he wasn't able to get a hold of a gun, this wouldn't have happened. And there's other people going, you know what? The police were not able to help them in this situation. And I don't ever want to be helpless. I don't ever want to be in a position where I cannot protect myself should something like that happen. Please, please, please do not take my gun. Sometimes it's all that you've got between you and a situation like that. And the crazy thing about it is, in some way, everybody that was adding their thoughts to that conversation about all those things, everyone was right. And it's a complicated issue. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. More from Andrea Lowell when we return.
Real Radio 104.1.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So Andrea Lowell is our guest on the show today. You've seen her and heard her in all manner of things. There was a time in my life where whenever I was on the air, I got relegated to this one Sunday weekend shift. when my note the sarcastic air quotes around this word, radio career wasn't going so hot. And I would sit there on a Sunday being miserable and mostly watching TV. And whenever I was on the air was when you were on TV on the Surreal Life.
Nice.
So I was very familiar with all of your situations with You were on with China, the wrestler.
Yes,
you were on
was.
With Rob Van Winkle, Vanilla Ice. You were on with Emmanuel Lewis that played Webster. You were on with.
him.
Were you on with Vern Troyer? Were you on with Mini Me?
I was with Vern, and you know what? At that point in time in my life, I was a daily smoker. I had a really nasty smoking habit, and Vern actually told me that he had a smoking fetish, and he would love it when I would smoke cigarettes. And it was so funny because in this weird, like, sympathetic part of my brain, I didn't want to quit smoking because I didn't want Vern to lose his, like, love and lust for me. But eventually I did. But it was just so funny how he was like, "Oh yeah, baby, keep smoking." He's a doll. I absolutely love him.
Well, could have gone either way on
Totally.
that one. Kudos on your sense of humor for doing that and not going uncomfortable. So let me ask you this: we're far away enough from that I don't think you'd be revealing too many trade secrets. Like,
Sure.
How much of that situation is real, and how much of it, like Vern Troyer wetting himself, right? He did that, like, because he was in a drunken stupor, like that. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that was real.
Yeah, I will tell you. Specifically with the Surreal Life. The Surreal Life was the first real celeb reality type show. And this was a decade ago. This was when shows weren't so hyper produced. You're literally cast. You're put into a glorious mansion. However, there's no TV. There's no books. There's no magazines. There's no clocks. There's just top shelf alcohol and a bunch of really alpha personalities. And so what it was very, very real. Now, the only thing that was contrived was the situations. Like, oh, today you're going to do a competition where it's a cook-off, or today you're going to, go against each other as talk show hosts. So they would create situations for us for entertainment purposes, but they never said, "Hey, say this." They never said, "Oh, so-and-so's talking behind your back. You need to say this." They didn't feed us anything. I will say, though, that after viewing it, the editors are very sneaky, creative, and crafty. They would string sentences together that weren't even said the same day. And knowing my own cadence, I was like, "She is such a hoe." I was like, I didn't say that. Like, they literally edit you together. And I also noticed the trickery.
And one of those words sounded like it was produced by a speak and spell. But
yes, the trickery of nowadays, when I watch reality, I don't notice it. But when I did the Surreal Life, you know how they have you do the interviews where you're kind of narrating what's going on in the show, talking about your emotions, setting stuff up? They would have us wear the exact same outfit every single time so that they could edit it together and splice it together and make it evergreen. It would, whatever you said about someone one day could actually be inserted in through editing about a different person another day. And I was so upset when I saw that. But it also made me realize that things people were saying about me probably weren't even true or about me, and they probably didn't say it. So
right. So you didn't take it personally after the fact.
Exactly, because I saw how they had edited what I said. So I knew that they had to have done that to the others as well. But all in all, it was a good experience. I will say it was a little bit emotionally exhausting because literally everyone is just so type A that it's annoying. But and Florence Henderson totally misunderstood me, and I still think she's a royal bee.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow. Florence Henderson, Surreal Life beef. This just got... Whoa. Hey, whoa, man, whoa. That really interesting.
Yeah, she just was so judgmental, and I felt that she was only seeing one facet of who I was, and that was the Playboy stuff. And she refused to see everything else I was doing. I was going to school as a biology major. I was in a beautiful, loving relationship.
And you got your biology degree, right?
I actually stopped going to school because I was getting so much modeling and acting work that I had to make a really tough decision. Do I please my parents and finish school and become a doctor? Or do I make, a lot of money in my 20s? And I chose the money.
Well, I mean, biology is not going anywhere if you suddenly feel the desire to pursue it, and you're almost in a lot of ways pursuing the knowledge of human biology because you've turned so much of what you do toward health and fitness.
Absolutely.
Like you're all you're all like ripped and shredded now and have way more stomach muscles than Funkhouser and I ever.
Yeah, you know,
ever
I will
will.
say I have become a personal trainer. I'm also a plant-based nutritionist, and I do think what gives me a leg up above other trainers and other nutritionists is my bio background. I feel like I understand the human body so much more because typically to become a personal trainer, it's like either a weekend course, it's a 3-month course, or an 8-month course, whereas I've been studying biology my whole life. My mom was a biology teacher, so growing up, we were, our kitchen dinner table conversations were about the periodic table of elements, for Christ's sake. So I've always been very science-minded, and I think that has propelled me into being a really stellar trainer. So thanks for noticing. And
I mean, like, it's okay. So, like, all right, look, how much time do we have left in this segment, Funkhouser?
Oh, we're off and running. We got a good 9 here.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. So, like, you look at Funkhouser.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, here we go.
I'm looking.
You look at Funkhouser, and so are you now? Interestingly enough, you say plant-based. Are you vegan? Like all into raw veganism?
So here's my thing. I am a superfoodist, which is I only eat foods that are nutritionally superior. I do not calorie count. I eat as much as I want. I eat massive quantities of food. It just so happens that 99% of superfoods are plants. So I eat pretty much an entire plant-based diet. Typically raw, yes, but with the exception of a couple animal products like honey and bee pollen, because those are superfoods.
So no, like fish, no steak, no beef, no chicken.
No, when I call it relapsing on any of those things, I get really sick, and that's just validation to me that I'm not supposed to be eating it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of trial and error went into it. It wasn't something I just decided overnight. It took me about 1.5 years to get to the point I am now of transitioning my diet.
So let's talk about Funkhouser. And Funkhouser's girlfriend, Canadian Jane, is a vegan, and Funkhouser is not a vegan. But Funkhouser, am I right in assuming that the vast majority of your diet is not is vegan, right, at this stage?
Yeah, probably 85%.
That's awesome. That's great. No wonder you're so glowing.
Are we looking at the same guy? Like, I mean, I love Funkhouser like a brother and everything, but
I've known Funk for a
are you
decade.
glowing?
She knew me before I had this extra poundage on me. So yeah,
But
I'm glowing in the wrong spots.
But his skin does look really, really good.
Oh yeah, I feel really good too. Like
Yeah.
I miss sometimes I miss the chicken and the fish, but I'm good. Tofu's good.
Lot of pausing there, Funkhouser.
Every so often,
all right. So let's
relapse.
Let's in a general sort of way, let's look at Funkhouser and how could he become the ripped, toned, shredded super athlete that you are based on his plant-based diet? Because here's the thing, I was a vegan for 13 years growing up. I had hippie parents, and it just I had the exact opposite experience to you. I ate vegan for a long, long time, and I remember once I was in Italy and I ordered pasta thinking that it was just tomato sauce,
Right.
And then I ate it, and then immediately I horked my guts up, and on closer inspection, there was like beef in the sauce or something like that, and the language barrier prevented me from knowing that. But there was, when I lived in New York City, there was a Harrah's Casino on the Jersey Shore that I used to visit regularly that had this place called the Fantasy Reef Buffet. Now, I'd always promised myself if I tried meat again, it would be fish, because I used to enjoy that when I was a kid. It'd be fish or steamed clams or
it's
lobster.
More neutral, so it's not going to give you such a horrible reaction as red meat would.
Right. But the gateway drug was, like a little bit of fish here, and then a couple months later, a little bit of chicken there.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I'd been vegan for a lot of my childhood and a good, the beginnings of my adult life. And finally, I was like, that steak smells really good. I'm based on what happened in Italy all those years ago, I'm probably going to vomit almost immediately.
Oh, it's such
after
a
I have
horrible
this
pain that people don't understand unless you've been in our situation. It's like the worst stomach ache ever.
Yeah. And then, I ate the steak, woke up the next morning and went, I feel like a god. This is what has been missing from my life.
Oh.
And, I felt freaking fantastic once I introduced meat into my diet again. Now, here's the thing. When I was a kid growing up with my mom doing the cooking, and, I was getting tofu and mushroom quiche and, probably getting enough of the right stuff. Cut to get a record deal, go on the road, live on Denny's house salad and white toast for the vast majority of like 3 years, not feeling so hot. And then when you're a young dude, you're not going like, I'm going to cook myself a nutritious vegan meal. You're like, no, more toast. And so I was just probably starved for any kind of protein whatsoever.
Well, also nutritionally void. Any salad at Denny's is going to be mostly like iceberg and, probably GMO laden romaine.
It's so funny that you would say that because there was always iceberg lettuce.
Yeah.
And the bass player in our band was this really picky. He was he identified himself without any sense of irony to the waitress at Denny's as, I'm a pescatarian food combiner. And he's like, do you have any sprouted spelt bread? And they're like, no, we don't. And so like we'd have a Denny's house salad. He's like, ugh. More iceberg lettuce. This sucks. Would it kill them to provide a little bit of romaine? I was like, look around you. You're at freaking Denny's in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. These things that you're expecting are not going to happen.
Yeah, that's the reason I refuse to go there. There's nothing that I can eat that has any nutritional substance. So I just don't go places that I know can't give me what I need. As a superfoodist, I put nutrients first. That's the only thing I care about. And if it's nutritionally void, I don't eat it.
So back to Funkhouser.
Yeah, I'm looking at him still.
Oh, God.
I'm sizing him up.
Mm-hmm. Like if you want to refer back to his naked gardening pictures from a little while ago.
I was a little less heavy then.
Well,
you can
just a little.
To help you assess the situation. It was National Naked Gardening Day. He was a full-on participant. And the internet knows it now.
Full on.
So just because someone is vegan or 85% vegan does not mean that they will be svelte and ripped. Because
I find it's quite the opposite because you wind up eating toast, like to try and fill it. And you're constantly hungry because you're not getting the right stuff.
Well, what I'm saying is just that, like, Oreos are vegan. So you can be vegan. You can be eating vegan pizza. You could be eating vegan cinnamon rolls. Just because you're vegan does not mean that you're going to have a great body. You have to do a couple of things. You have to be vegan intelligently. You have to eat foods that are going to nourish your body. And the more nourishment you get, the less fat you have, because calorie for calorie, I eat way more than anyone else that I know, and people are blown away when they see the amount of food I eat. But the body handles nutritive calories different than non-nutritive calories. So when I'm looking at Funk, I'm seeing like maybe he's eating too much tofu, maybe too much fake chicken products. I would say avoid the fake processed vegan foods and just eat more from the earth. Eat more raw. Eat more.
I can't have all the pizza sauce.
I mean, not if it depends on your goal. So, if we were going to do a consultation, I would say, what is your goal? What do you want to look like? And then we'd go through your diet and then I would tell you what tweaks to make. But looking at you, it looks like you're eating too much processed vegan food.
Wait, you can tell that just by looking at him?
I'm an expert.
What's the giveaway? But like, how can you go on?
The spare tire, the muffin top.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because you look at me and I eat literally like over 3,000 calories a day, and I'm like 9 to 13% body fat on any given day. And I know it's because I don't eat tofu, but very occasionally. I don't have any processed food in my house. I only have ingredients. So if I want to make something, I have to prepare it myself from scratch.
So there's supposed to be a conversation about politics, but it became a conversation about veganism, which is totally cool.
But you know what? The way I eat is a reflection of politics. It's because we are owned by corporations, and people like Monsanto are in bed with our government, and they're creating all these GMOs. So I am eating the way I eat to protect myself from, again, that tyrannical view that the government has trying to oppress me, fluoridating my water, fake food, chemtrails in the sky. I'm doing everything I can to fight what they're doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're not only... See, I have a little bit of conspiracy theorist in the back of my mind.
Oh, I'm conspiracy all day, boo.
I can tell. And I see, here's the thing. I believe that 98% of what you are saying is 100% true, but I just can't get myself off the couch to eat something different and yeah. I guess my mind is being controlled through delicious burgers. That is why I'm not as good as Andrea Lowell.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior. Delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again.
Our guest on the show today as part of our Punk Rock Politics interview series is Andrea Lowell. You've seen her in Playboy. You've seen her on pretty much every Playboy-related thing that there is. Playboy Television, Playboy Radio. You might have heard her as the host of the Mr. Skin podcast. You have also probably seen her on The Surreal Life on VH1. But not only that, she is a gun-toting conspiracy theorist, as we are finding out here, that wants Funkhouser to be more vegan than he actually is. You're an interesting set of contradictions. You know who you remind me of? Like, you ever, back in the day, listen to that? This is kind of a radio nerd thing. Michael Savage?
No. Do I need
unbelievably
to Google?
right-wing guy.
Okay.
Unbelievably right-wing guy, but also I think spent some time as a nutritionist.
Nice.
So he'll sort of he'll riff on, the things that he feels very passionately political about, and then he'll go, I remember when I was a kid in Brooklyn making organic peach pies, and I was just like, you are an interesting set of contradictions, which I really, really like. Not
Thank
contradictions
you.
in
I
that they
get you.
don't make sense, but contradictions in the fact that, generally speaking, people that hold one set of views about some of the things you do are the opposite side of the fence.
Right.
I'll just, and it's unfair to paint with broad strokes, but in my experience, people that are buying guns because they want to protect their Second Amendment rights and themselves, and they feel as though those are going to be taken from them very soon, are not the folks going out being like, really, you're eating too much processed tofu. You need to be like a bit more. Raw vegans don't carry guns, in my experience, and I've met a lot of raw vegans.
No,
You're the
absolutely.
first I know with a gun collection. I think that's cool, and I think that's interesting, and I think that indicates that you have 100% figured things out for yourself. You have not been seduced by the appeal of the herd, and you have gone through life making your own decisions about your own stuff.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
It took years of research, and literally it all stemmed from the political kind of realm. It started when I did research on the Federal Reserve. Then I started researching, about all the government ties with all the corporations. And then I started researching about, the state of our food. And the more and more I researched kind of the conspiracy going on within our government and how they're really trying to oppress us through every means, that's why I started eating and treating my body the way I do, so that I can fight it off. That's why I bought a gun, so I can protect myself. I've done literally a decade of research on all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't have the balls to research because of cognitive dissonance, or they just are sheep and don't believe it. So, yeah, I feel confident in the decisions I'm making, and I don't do it out of fear. I do it out of arming myself with knowledge based on the research I've done.
Well, look, I think that how you go through life is kind of a bit of a blueprint for other people, not necessarily in terms of the end of days aspect of what you believe. Sorry, I didn't mean, I'm not laughing at that.
No,
at
but
all,
I don't
I'm just
believe
saying,
it's the end of days either. I don't think I don't think it's doomsday per se. I just know that they're stripping our rights away so slowly that people aren't even noticing, but I am.
But look at the decisions that you've made in your life to eat the way you eat, to for the reasons that like a lot of people are like, oh, animals are cuddly, I'm going to be a vegan, but you've made a decision like, no, there's stuff in this food that is not okay, and with regard to your personal freedoms, with the idea of being a gun owner, basically what you've done is something that anyone can do, and that's look at what you're handed and go, smells like crap, not for me, I'm going to be doing something else. And this is why this is why we talk so much about divorcing yourself from the notion of expecting a politician to do something that changes your life for you every single day on this show, because you can already just go out and make these life decisions for yourself and do the things that are right for you. It's not hard. I mean, it takes effort, especially if you're going to be a raw vegan. That takes a lot of effort. You can't ever go to a Denny's again and expect to get something that's satisfying. No more moons over my hammy for you. But the simple decisions to take control of your own life and your own destiny that you have made in this way are an excellent example for all of us. Now, some people might believe raw veganism and gun toting is the way for them, or they might have a completely different path. But the point is, you can make that decision for yourself without any approval or say so or go ahead from the government.
I'm completely with you on that. This is my path and my journey, which is why I never push my lifestyle on my clients, for example. Yeah, some of them have tried to be more raw because they like the way I look and they want to emulate that, but I don't push it on anyone else because it's my journey. It's the research I've done. I can't expect someone to go raw when they haven't done the decade of research I've done on going raw. And let me tell you, it was not an easy decision. I kept looking up online and in books and seminars and things, how to avoid getting terminal illness or being a slave to big pharma. How do I not get sick? And everything kept taking me back to raw vegan. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Absolutely not. But no matter what avenue I tried to attack it from, it kept taking me back to that. So I was like, screw it. I'm going to try this. And it took me about 1.5 years to go from a standard American diet to a raw vegan diet. And it was the best decision I ever made. But again, for me, like you said, everyone's journey is their own.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this: when that's that path you've taken, it's kind of an austere thing. It requires a tremendous amount of discipline. It is a life decision. It's a life change.
Yeah.
It's like people, anyone that's ever tried to stick to a diet knows how hard it is just to like, I don't want to eat carbs, or, I don't, less fat. Like, it's tough. It's tough. Like you're on the run. The only thing that's there is like some sort of fast food burger that comes with delicious curly fries, and you haven't eaten all day and it doesn't look like you're going to get a chance to between your 8 meetings. F it. I'm going to grab one of those. Mm-hmm. What you do is not easy, and it's a real life decision. So are you shacked up with someone? Are you married?
Yeah.
I'm making that up?
No, I've been married. I've been in my relationship for almost 15 years, married for almost 7. And I will tell you, my husband is a omnivore. He eats everything. We just make sure he doesn't eat anything that's poisoned. So I'm doing all the grocery shopping for him, and I don't hound on him because he has not done the research I've done. So I can't expect him to make the choices I've made without going to the depths I've gone to. As a former radio host, I was done with work every day at 10 a.m. I had nothing to do all day long but research stuff. So I don't expect anyone to have spent the hours a day and the weeks a year and the years and decades that I have. So I just don't expect it from other people. But yeah, he understands why I do what I do. He's called me crazy a few times, but anytime I ask him to research what I'm talking about, he's like, oh, you know what? You were right. Sorry, I called you crazy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Interesting. Well, you bring up an interesting point about the ability to coexist with people in a very intimate situation. If you can do that with your husband, I believe we can find a way to expand that to all of society, which we will talk about next. Yay! Andrea Lowell's on the show. Yay! Money making, skills on the mic, can be paid every day, and one of the vouchers, better act if you know. Down to the crown.
Real radio. Real radio.
104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
If you're just joining us, our guest on the show today is Andrea Lowell, who is an interesting contradiction of a conspiracy theorist, a gun owner, but also a bit of a tree hugger, and I say that in the nicest way possible, and a raw vegan. No, you are like a snowflake in that you are unique.
You guys are
your
making
beliefs.
me hungry in here too.
I have an apple if you want one.
Is that okay? We can eat apples? Where do you get the good ones
carbs are
from?
unlimited when you're raw. I eat 80% carbs.
But I mean, the apples, like if we want, apples that aren't part of GMO related mind control, can you get those
organic
at the grocery store?
Just make sure the number on the little sticker starts with a 9.
See, these are the things that you don't know. Like, why would anybody look for a 9 at the front of the sticker? These are essentially life hacks for people that want to make good decisions.
Exactly, but why would they make it so hard to figure out? You know what I mean? Why not just put organic? I feel like...
Because that's where they get you, Andrea.
Exactly.
That's where they get you.
That's my point.
So, all right, your husband does not share all of your beliefs, does not share all of your dietary choices.
Right.
Yet here you are getting along, having been with him for the past 15 years.
Right.
And like politically, are you guys on the same side of the fence, or do you believe different stuff?
Politically, we are pretty much on the same side, and we always have been. We're almost apolitical in a way where we think it's all just a joke, and there's shadow governments and people pulling puppet strings. And in a way, it's like, I'm registered, but I don't even know if I want to participate because I feel like it's all a joke, man. Like I think it's rigged. Straight
See,
up.
if you want to dig into my conspiracy theorist brain, I believe that the whole idea of like you're registered this, you're registered that. Like, I mean, I get the fact that you're registered and that's cool, but it sounds like you're also aware of the fact that, man, when they ask you to register, what they're asking you to do is remove critical thinking from the whole thing. And I go back to this over and over and over again. My dad, I think the first election he was old enough to vote in was the Kennedy election. That was like right around his time. Now, if you rewind back to Kennedy, Kennedy had a big problem. And the problem was getting the black vote. Why did he have a problem getting the black vote? Well, he was a Democrat. And at that time, being a Democrat was synonymous with being in the South and being a Klan member. It was intimately tied with the KKK.
Absolutely.
Democrat meant burning crosses and nooses and all the ugliness that went with it and all the horrific human atrocities that go with it. Fast forward now, it is the polar opposite. And that was my dad's lifetime. So just one generation out, what it meant to be a Democrat has changed completely. So the idea of like, we're Democrats, son, or we're Republicans, son, we're going to register as this, means absolutely nothing. It's just trying to coax a knee-jerk reaction out of you in this situation, and so they can count on your mindless vote. And the thing about that is, where it gets even more dangerous, is you got to be registered as something to participate in the primaries. And that, to me, is almost criminally insane. We're like, nah, unless you agree to be a joiner, I know we're a country that's supposed to be built on individual liberty, but unless you join our club and obey the rules of our club, you can't take part in this vital aspect of our election.
I 100%.
F you.
I 100% agree with you on everything you said. And yeah, I didn't participate in the primary. I haven't voted since, it's been like 12 years. I don't even know. I feel like it's not even worth it. Like, I don't want to say what I am. And I am registered as nothing. I prefer not to say, I think is what I put. So I can't even participate in the primary. And I don't even know that it would be worth it. So, and I also think Democrats and Republicans they don't stand for the values they once used to. I think they just kind of pander to what they think people want to hear. And really, after they get elected, they do what they want to do anyway. And everything they say is just BS.
I agree with all of the above and all that you have just said. And I think that it's... There's a guy that tweets along with the show oftentimes, and he is like, he's hardcore with Trump. That's it. That's his thing. That's his jam. And he when Trump wasn't getting the support from the Republican Party that he felt he was due, when he felt like he was having to spend his time fighting against the people who were supposed to be on his side, he tried to unregister as a Republican. He was like, man, they made it harder than leaving a gym. It was difficult. It took some real doing to no longer be a part of the Republican Party. And
leaving a gym
really is telling.
Hard. Really, really hard. No, but I totally feel you. It's like they want to lock you in, and I feel like
not hard for me.
Yeah, well, if you never go, Funkhouser, it's easier to leave. No, but I feel like it's all part of this like divide and conquer type of thing. They want us to have to choose what we are and create this disharmony between us. I think it's just part of a bigger, sick game in a way.
Funkhouser, how long do we have?
About 9 here.
All right, I'm going to play something here that segues into our next question for Andrea. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Remember those last few Halloweens? Getting a little too old for it. Just kind of going through the motions. Bing bong, come on, lady, let's go. Halloween, doorbells, candy, let's pick up the pace in there. You come to the door, they always ask you those same stupid questions. What are you supposed to be? I'm supposed to be done by now. You want to move it along with the Three Musketeers? I got 18 houses on this block alone. You just hit the bag, we hit the road. That's the routine. Let's just pick it up. Sometimes they give you that little white bag twisted on the top. You know that's going to be some crap candy. It's got to have those official Halloween markings on it. Hold it, lady. Wait a second. What is this? The orange marshmallow shaped like a big peanut? Do me a favor. You keep that one.
I like those.
Jerry Seinfeld's classic bit on Halloween, which brings me to my next question about someone that has made the dietary choices that you have made. Candy at Halloween or at Christmas? Like, do you allow yourself a moment to, like, scarf a bag of Sour Patch Kids ever?
Absolutely not. I know what's in them. You know, the fake food colorings, the disgusting additives that they don't even allow in other countries. Our U.S. government allows in our food. To me, it's a self-respect thing. I'm not going to knowingly poison myself. And if I were to eat that, I probably would get sick because my body's really clean. Yeah.
Really sensitive. You know, it's funny because, like, I had a buddy that was a personal trainer, and we were supposed to go hang out. And this guy, like, he'd done vegan bodybuilding. Like, he used to enter all these bodybuilding competitions. And then once as an experiment, because he has that kind of time on his hands, he was like, I'm going all vegan for like 9 months in the run up to this competition to see if I can get in bodybuilding shape with mostly hemp protein. I was like, all right, cool. And, after he did his vegan bodybuilding competition, where I'm pretty sure he placed, we were supposed to go out for a celebratory something or other, and he called me. He's like, I can't go out. I was like, why? He's like, I have the most horrendous headache. I was like, sorry, dude. What is it? He was like, I had Chinese food last night in the MSG, and that just knocked me out for 2 days. I was just like, wow, that's interesting. It's just like, he was like, dude, once you rid your body of poison, you introduce it back into it, your body will tell you super duper quick that that's not the right thing for you.
Absolutely. And when you're eating toxically, the standard American diet, it doesn't affect you because you're already jammed up with it and you're clogged with it. But as soon as you clean it up, oh man, does it hit you. So that's, to me, it's not even worth poisoning myself, even though, trust me, I do love me some Sour Patch Kids. It's just not worth it.
So the trick for you and I, Funkhouser, for those of us that have given up on life and are not going to be able to achieve the things that Andrea has in her life and career, we have to keep a steady flow of Sour Patch Kids coming in, so we never lapse. It's sort of like
never
a vaccine. Yeah, it's sort of like a vaccine for all the poison that we're willing to shove down our cavernous gaping gullets at the movie theaters. You are inspiring and intimidating in this way, Andrea. Let me ask you this. So, like, you know, in addition to all of this, you're kind of making your main focus health and fitness now and wellness, and you train people and all the above, right?
Yeah, you know, it's my passion, and I didn't know it was my passion, but they say whatever you can't stop thinking about is what you're supposed to be doing. And I remember when I was just doing TV and radio and I would work out with my personal trainer, she goes, you know what, you're really talented, physically speaking, like you're really capable of executing moves in perfect form.
Hold, yeah, okay, and dive into that a little bit deeper. What's physically talented? Because Funkhouser and I clearly don't know anything about that. What is it to be physically talented? I'm a natural athlete.
There's nothing physical you can't ask me to do that I won't do really, really well. I'm naturally good at anything in all sports. So anything that involves my body, I'm just a natural at. And my personal trainer said, you need to become a trainer. And my ego was like, I'm not becoming a trainer. Dude, I'm on TV every day. I'm a radio host. Like, I don't train people. You train me. And then after she planted that seed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I just said, okay, who cares? Who cares if people may perceive me as something else? I don't care about what they think of me. I need to use my gifts that I was born with to help other people become the best versions of them. Then I became a trainer. Then I became a plant-based nutritionist, and I've been doing that now for over 4 years, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's the most rewarding thing I've done.
So if people want to be trained by you, how do they go about that?
They can contact me on any of my social media platforms. I check all my own direct messages and private messages, and we can just see if our locations hook up or if our schedules hook up, and we can go from there.
Do you do like Skype consultations or video chats or like, because I would imagine that in the past this would have been something you got to be there for. Now, what with, you know, like what you can do with an app or Facebook Live or any of the above that has absolutely changed the way that everything is done. You could probably, you know, consult someone on the moon if you wanted to about how to like get ripped in zero gravity. Yeah,
there's an app I use called the You and Me app that I video chat with people, and it charges them per minute. So that's an option. I'd really like to do one-on-one in person, though, because I'm a form fanatic and I want to make sure everything's perfectly amazing. But if someone just wants a video chat, like nutritional consultation, or you literally want to take me on your phone with you through your kitchen, through your refrigerator and pantry, I can do all that with you. So yeah, I like to be as accessible as possible. So we can do video, we can do email, we can do messaging, or we can do one-on-one, whatever. I'm literally here to help others.
And I think that's an incredibly valuable thing, and that, you know, like, look, you're this television and radio celebrity, you were making all kinds of money, and really, you know, like, you seem to have gotten so much out of the life choices you've made toward health and fitness.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very pure in that you are deciding now to kind of try and help share and spread that joy and that happiness and those benefits that you have experienced through it with other people. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it really does sound like you.
I think we need to karate
a
kid
calling.
her. That's the.
I think we do. You ready? Yes.
I love it. Yeah, the changes in my life have been so profound that I do want to share it with other people. So you nailed it, AD.
So let me ask you this: you have a good portion of your career. It was kickstarted by the fact that you look great with no clothes on,
Absolutely.
and a lot of people have seen that you look great with no clothes on. Do you ever get people to be like, "I'd really like you to train me," in a creepy way that you have to weed out? Like,
Exactly.
does that? Did
Yeah.
you ever get weird, stocky, quote unquote clients?
Absolutely. That's why I like with the You and Me app specifically, I tell people you have to make an appointment with me first. I'm not going to blindly pick up a call and it be some guy jerking off to me. I've had
We're not in delay, Funkhouser. Hopefully you caught that. But go on. We all know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so I make sure I do a thorough screening. I mean, vaguely thorough. Not like I'm digging into your social security or anything, but like, you know, I find out, make sure who you say you are. We talk about your goals before we even get on the video chat, because I want to make sure you're not just a creep trying to have fan time with me. Also, with my private training and my nutritionist clients, I pretty much train only females, or when I see guys, I know them already, or they're in a relationship. I try not to do too many single men, just because the fan factor.
Sure, absolutely understandable. Andrea Lowell, the time has flown by here today. Tweet Andrea Lowell at Real Andrea Lowell. That's it, right?
The Andrea Lowell.
I'm sorry.
You got
At
it.
The Andrea Lowell is where you can get a hold of her. Hopefully you'll come back again and again. You're a fascinating person
I
with
would
so
love
much to
to.
say, and you add so much to the conversation, and you're really, really smart. Thank you, Andrea.
My pleasure.
Deserve it. And sometimes you feel good about yourself for being the better person and doing that. Well, this is not one of those times.